This week, the Senate will be voting on whether or not to strike down the FCC's internet privacy rules. What's that? The vote's done, they already fucked us? Alright. This week, the US House of Representatives will be voting on the Senate's— Really? They fucked us too. It's too late to do any sort of— Hey, let's all set up a VPN! First, we should talk a little bit about what exactly just happened. And right off the bat, I should make it clear that this will all just apply to the US. Sorry, international viewers, except this is all terrible, so maybe rejoice because this isn't you. So last Thursday, March 23rd, the US Senate voted to invalidate the FCC's internet privacy rules set to go into effect as part of its last big push for net neutrality under former chairman Tom Wheeler. And then this past Tuesday, the Senate's resolution also passed the House with overwhelming and unilaterally Republican support. So what exactly does this mean? The text of the Senate's resolution reads, quote, that Congress disapproves the rules submitted by the Federal Communications Commission relating to protecting the privacy of customers of broadband and other telecommunication services, and such rule shall have no force or effect. The full text of said rule, Federal Regulation 87274, is available in the YouTube notes below, along with my other sources for this video. Here are the rule's bullet points. It would require carriers to provide privacy notices that clearly and accurately inform customers, obtain opt-in or opt-out customer approval to use and share sensitive or non-sensitive customer proprietary information respectively, take reasonable measures to secure customer proprietary information, provide notification to customers, the Commission, and law enforcement in the event of data breaches that could cause harm, not condition provision of service on the surrender of privacy rights, and provide heightened notice and obtain affirmative consent when offering financial incentives in exchange for the right to use a customer's confidential information. Striking down this rule means that not only does your internet service provider not have to keep your personal information private and safe, not only do they not need your consent to share and sell that information, not only could they make the sale of your data a condition of your continued internet service, they wouldn't have to tell you if any of that were the case. Now real quick, I just want to make clear a few things that may have gotten muddied in the half dozen or so articles you may have skimmed on this topic. The FCC privacy rule struck down by Congress had not yet gone into effect, so nothing is suddenly legal now that was not already technically legal. But to quote Russell Brandom over at The Verge, while this doesn't make legal anything that wasn't already possible, that doesn't mean this week's panic was a false alarm, only that the damage is harder to spot. Ajit Pai's FCC is taking a very different approach than Tom Wheeler's FCC. Pai's approach promises to be much more permissive, and rolling back Wheeler's privacy rules is the first concrete sign of that. It's a clear signal to service providers that if they want to boost their ad business with consumer data, the FCC won't stop them. But so the votes are already done. You can't call your representatives asking them to vote no. Though if one of your congresspeople did vote yes on this, you should absolutely still call them to voice your displeasure and to make sure that they know you'll be voting based on this in the next election. Incidentally, if you're curious as to why your representatives would vote for something so blatantly against your interests, remind yourself what a politician is, and follow the money. An independent collection of data from the National Institute on Money in State Politics found that Telecoms bought this vote for around $9.2 million, spread across all yay voting congresspeople. Relatively cheap when you consider the annual profit of a Comcast or an AT&T, and especially when you consider how much oil companies usually throw their way. So, what now? Political action is definitely still effective, but in this case, that's going to be more of a long-term thing. Our internet service providers are going to start taking advantage of new Chairman Ajit Pai's much weaker FCC sooner rather than later. So are there any actions that we can take, technologically speaking, to protect ourselves now? The answer to that question seems to be yes? Now, the first most simple step to protecting yourself online is something called HTTPS. You might recognize HTTP from the beginning of every URL up in your URL bar. HTTPS is a secure version of that very same protocol, the key difference being that it encrypts website traffic, so your internet service provider could see that you visited the Washington Post, for example, but not what articles you read there. The problem with this is that it's largely the responsibility of website administrators to implement, but the good news is that there is something you can do yourself. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has created a simple browser extension called HTTPS Everywhere that forces a secure connection around the web. There's a link in the notes below. All you have to do is click install for whatever browser you happen to be using, and you're that much closer to security. Now, the main thing everyone has been crying this week is VPN. So what the hell does that mean, and how do I wave that magic wand over my porn search history? VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it's essentially an encrypted connection to a server elsewhere in the world that masks your internet traffic from anyone who might be looking, including your internet service provider. VPNs are an effective way to give yourself a little more privacy online, and they're frequently used around the world to subvert the blockage of certain websites by authoritarian countries. So why does it seem like no one will give you a straight answer on which one to use or where to find one? Well, mainly because security experts can't definitively say that any of our current VPN offerings will keep your data 100% safe and anonymous outside of setting up your own physical server. There are VPNs out there that are both free and easy to set up, so it's not as though you're locked out by a level of technical difficulty or cost. But the problem with a free VPN, as it is with any free online service, is how are they making money? And the answer is they're probably selling your data. It's the circle of God. Damn it! There are plenty of paid VPN services out there that are actually incredibly cheap, most of which are probably reliable enough to fit your needs if you're simply concerned about this rollback of privacy rules. But the problem is that you're now paying a fee on top of your existing internet bill just for some fucking privacy. Now, in my research, I found that no one is really willing to endorse any one service because it's so difficult to tell how well any of them fit the bill for what you might be looking for, but these are the names that keep coming up in article after article that seem to be pretty reputable. You know, go check them out, check out their prices and their privacy policies. Maybe some of these will work for you. Myself, I've actually been using the free VPN built into Opera's web browser. You download Opera, and then in the settings, it's one click to turn on their built-in ad blocker, one click to turn on their built-in VPN, and then another click to go and install HTTPS Everywhere. But hey, wait, didn't you just say they're probably selling my data? Yeah, chances are. But like most people, I don't have the money for another monthly fee just for a VPN. I can't set up my own physical server. Something is better than nothing here. Albert Wenger's take on this over on Recode actually really resonated with me. He brought up this dilemma of if it's free, they're selling your data, and if it's paid, you're paying another fee just for privacy. And he said, "So why do I still recommend doing this? I see it as an act of protest against undue market power. It is a way of individually reclaiming some of the power that the government has just stripped from us and transferred to our monopoly providers. A tunnel removes the ISP's ability to make more money on your data, and it reestablishes net neutrality for you, as the ISP can no longer treat traffic from different sources with different priorities." To close, as Jacob Hoffman Andrews over at the EFF says, VPNs are essentially a way of moving your trust, and I can no longer reasonably trust my ISP. So I'll shift that trust over to Opera for now, because I can. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you're concerned about your privacy, or you just want to learn more about the things I touched on in this video, check out the links in the description. In particular, there's a step-by-step guide on how to grab the HTTPS Everywhere extension, as well as how to set up Opera's VPN and everything. If you like what you see here, you can always support me on Patreon. It pays my Adobe bills, and it helps me keep creating things on my own. Thanks.